Here we have the pleasure of welcoming FORTNOX and the CEO Nils Carlsson. Me myself, I am Simon Granat. I work as an analyst at ABG. And enough said about that. Please go ahead, Nils, and present the company and what's happening in this current market.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you, ABG, for the kindly invitation to present today. FORTNOX, as you know, is a cloud-based software and a platform for business services, both to small businesses and accounting firms. And what we offer is more or less these kind of administrational services, but also we have subsidiaries offering finance services as factoring, for example, or invoicing handling. We also have a subsidiary that we call FORTNOX Insurance or Försäkring in Swedish, and that is more or less a little bit startup, but also to be able to offer complementary services towards our small business owners. We also have value-added services, which you can see on the left side of this picture, and we also have an ecosystem with over 300 integration partners. So this is more or less what FORTNOX are offering, and this is our platform. And FORTNOX is an amazing company in many ways, and I will try to explain a little bit about that during my presentation. FORTNOX is very well positioned, I would say, in the marketplace in Sweden. This picture shows a little bit about the possible penetration rate of cloud services in Sweden. FORTNOX is the market leader. And there is a transformation ongoing in the industry, both for the small business owners in Sweden and the accounting firms in Sweden. Roughly, I would guess that the penetration rate of cloud services and the uptake of cloud services, when you refer to accounting services, is roughly around 50% in Sweden today. There's no scientific or survey about this, but this is my belief that we were around these kind of figures. And then a question I often get is, where are we heading? And my answer to that is more or less, I think Sweden will reach up to 90% penetration rate, but that will probably take some years more compared to where we are today. There is countries in the world that today have over 70 and 80% penetration rate. So there's quite good, movement in the market, but also in terms of potential for a company like FORTNOX. We released our quarterly report a couple of weeks ago. And the growth rate we had in Q2 was over 40%, 43% of our net turnover. So a really good growth rate, but we did that also with an operating margin of 31%. So these two figures are really happy to present. The customers is 286,000 companies in Sweden, which is customers to FORTNOX, and we employed roughly 20 more people during the quarter. So today we're almost like 300 people employed by FORTNOX. So all in all, in these kind of KPIs, a good quarter report. Something else that could be notable in the Q2 report from FORTNOX is the ARPU, the average revenue per user, which in the Q2 report was 142 Swedish krona. And that was a lift up by roughly 15 Swedish krona from last year, the same period. We can also see that the parent company actually had a bigger operating margin compared to the group, with roughly almost 35%. And also our subsidiary, FORTNOX Finance, had an operating margin of 13%. So this could be notable in the Q2 report as well. If you look at the sales results, the past 3 years, the sales of the group, you can see they have been increasing very, very stable. The operating profit, more or less the same track, the past 3 years, every quarter, a little bit different quarter to quarter, but I think you should look at the trend instead, both in terms of Swedish krona and percentage. you can see a quite large increase the past 3 years. So really nice, all in all. Another KPI that you might look at is the customer growth. The customer growth have the past 3 years roughly adding up to 50,000 new companies as customers to Fortnox every year. A very stable growth, I would say. In terms of other significant events in the quarter, you could see also that we, in June, we applied for a payment processor application to the finance authorities in Sweden. And that is a reason or a strategic step for us to be able to offer more payment services to our customers, and to actually not just to offer them bookkeeping, they should actually be able to pay their invoices as well, for example. We launched different kind of packages or bundle packages during the second quarter as well. And the reason for doing that is that we have probably been the only player in Europe that hasn't been offering these kind of bundle packages. And this is a way of more or less simplify for the customers to be able to take on our services and to understand what they are buying and the value for them as well. We also released from our insurance company, motor insurances. The insurance company that we have is a broking company. We have agreements, fantastic agreements with the big insurance company SPP, and also another big insurance company called Trygg Hansa in Sweden that we work together with. So in more or less the status today of our insurance business is that we have live customers, but you should consider it as a testing and piloting phase that we're into right now. So these are the significant events that we could actually see in quarter two. A good quarter for the company, and also a stable company, and a stable KPIs that we released in the second quarter. If we should take a look from our perspective on the market and the strategy for Fortnox, you could say that this is one perspective of the market that Fortnox are into. It's becoming a more diversified marketplace where Fortnox is present. You could see that there are more or less new kind of accounting firms that has been bought up by PE companies on the left side, Aspia, LRF Consult, for example. We also see different kind of hybrids, as we call them, different kind of competitors that also offer accounting services towards their customers. At the same time, they do own developments. We have cloud-based, where Fortnox is present. You have the traditional on-premise players, like Hugia and Visma, for example. But you can also see very, very small mobile players. You could see the traditional accounting firms, and also very niched players, for example, like company expense doing receipts handling, for example. So all in all, you could say that markets are becoming more and more diversified. It's more players in the market, a lot of startups as well. So it's becoming a crowded place to be in. If you wonder about Fortnox growth strategy in this kind of marketplace, it's quite simple. And it's probably very similar to other players as well. Where we are today, we are grabbing market share. That's what we're doing. And that's our focus, and that's our priority number one. It's to increase the number of customers and the users of our platform and Fortnox services. We also, as the second step, try to increase the sales to our existing customers, because the customer base are becoming quite large now. 286,000 companies in Sweden is a quite good customers to ours. And the third step, it is to offer them complementary services. And complementary services for us is for example, insurances, for example, finance services, and it could be a lot of other things as well. So these three very simple steps is our growth strategy. Of course, so as every other company, we have 100 pages of PowerPoint that is describing our strategy as well. But I think I shouldn't bore you with that. So you will get one pager instead. So this is the one. What you can see also in the market is it's not only an industry transformation. It's actually a customer transformation journey that we're into. And we have been into that the past maybe 2 years. And that is also what we're seeing the coming years. When you talk about Fortnox, you probably refer to, okay, it's the company that's doing bookkeeping. But a lot of our customers, they are coming from a manual bookkeeping, and we try to develop them and transform them into digital accounting. And the third step would be to transform them to be automated, to actually offer them automated accounting, and that the customers and the accounting firms should actually also have the ability and the processes that needs to be digital. And the big thing with actually this picture is to understand that a lot of the customers in Sweden, both accounting firms and small business owners, they are not digital today. They are not automated in terms of doing their bookkeeping or administrational services. They are in the red dot. They are more or less in the first phase to do manual bookkeeping. And for most of them, it's a really big step to just go from manual accounting to digital accounting. And there's a lot of people talking about, okay, everything should be automated and no accounting consultants should be needed in the future. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. That's not the way we see it. There's a lot of people out there that actually need help in this journey and this transformational journey. Even if you're a very well placed and established accounting firm, they need our help to do this. This is the journey both in the industry and also for the customers, not to forget. If you look at the customer base of Fortnox, I said to you it's 286,000 customers and companies. And I don't think you will see what it says on the right page on this slide, but the point with actually showing this kind of diagram is that you should see that the customers in Fortnox, they are diversified in almost every single sector that is present in Sweden. So if you took a statistical survey from SCB in Sweden and would like to look at how the companies in Sweden look like, this is more or less how it looks like. And it's the same for Fortnox. And the benefit for us is that this gives us stability inside the company, because we're not dependent on any sector or industry or construction or retail or IT or whatever it is. Everyone needs bookkeeping or administrational services, even if your company is going good or if it's going bad. This is something that you really need. So this could be an interesting point for you guys who wonder how the customer base looks like. The big green area is what we call juridik ekonomi in Swedish. That's more or less accounting, economy kind of services and companies inside that. And then it's retail and construction. Those are the biggest areas where we have customers, even if in total it's quite small. So this is how it looks like for us and the customer base. And when we talk about almost 300,000 companies in Sweden as customers, we'll hopefully continue to get new customers and grabbing market share the coming years. We also try to take our responsibility in the society and try to debate and try to be a voice of Sweden's small businesses, to try to get them to increase their competitiveness in the industry. So we try to debate, and this is an article from a broadband issue where we debated about the government's broadband growth, and that is actually having implications for Sweden's small businesses. So we try to be a voice and try to fight for Sweden's small businesses and their competitiveness in the marketplace. So we're not just only in the business of bookkeeping, as you can see. I mentioned to you that we have over 300 integration partners. This is our ecosystem. Everybody talks about ecosystem, but in our view, this is a way of actually helping our customers. There's a lot of customers out there that think that, okay, I'm very, very special. I have a specific platform or software that I need to have in my business, but it also needs to be connected to Fortnox to be able to work for my business or my segment or my industry or my shop or whatever it could be. And I can promise you, we probably definitely have the partner to help them to connect to our software, help them with their specific need. Even if you're an e-commerce or if you're a retailer or whatever kind of customer you are. So this ecosystem is really important for Fortnox. We also create businesses to our partners, so it's more or less a win-win situation for them. So this is not a show-off picture. We don't need to have a show-off picture for Fortnox because this is a way of actually strategically doing business and creating businesses, not just for our customers. It's creating businesses to our partners, but also creating businesses to Fortnox. And this is a way of letting and creating new business for us, and also to be able to have that kind of diagram that I just showed you. Without those integration partners and this ecosystem, you shouldn't have seen those 286,000 customers. So we're very, very happy for our integration partners out there. And we have an open API, as we call it, and it's very easy and friendly to connect with Fortnox, and we try to be very transparent in our API. And we even have competitors that has connected to Fortnox platform. But that is the way we look at it. We try to be very open and transparent. It's also an ecosystem that is important for us in one way to develop more business, both for the partners but also for ourselves in the future. So this ecosystem will probably increase month by month going forward. We offer a generic system, and these partners, they are developing specific needs for the customers. And that is also a way to actually improve for example, our ARPU or our operating margin. If we should be doing all these kind of specific changes that the partners are doing, you will probably not see an operating margin of 31% as we launched in Q2. So this is a really good tool for us and a very strategic ecosystem for Fortnox. Something that is a little bit different for Fortnox compared to maybe other competitors is also that we have agreements with all the Swedish large accounting firms. And you probably recognize all the names on this slide. And this is something that is unique in the marketplace and that is unique for Fortnox. These agreements are very powerful for us. They are important for us, and this is also our customers and partners. It's also our distribution channel as well. So we're very, very happy to have those kind of agreements. There's very few other players in the industry and in the market that has those kind of agreements that we have with, for example, Aspia, LRFK, Grant Thornton, Ernst Young, BDO, Deloitte, and so on. So this is really, really nice and very important for us. So there you had a very, very brief presentation about Fortnox, a little bit around where we are from our second quarter, how many customers we have, more or less the unique selling points for the company, a little bit where the market is, and I think the market has really good potential the coming years as well. Fortnox is an amazing company. We're present in Växjö in Småland, where we have our head office. And we also have an office in Malmö where we have our finance company as well. So we're not present here in Stockholm, not yet, and we will try to see how long we can stay in Växjö. I think Växjö is a really nice town with a lot of fantastic employees as well. So I'm very happy for the team and for the management team as well. So this was my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Nils. And let's continue this presentation with a few questions on my behalf. So first off, one driver for your impressive sales growth in the last couple of years is that you have a maturing customer base where customers are gradually adding more and more modules. Can you please give us an approximation of the amount of modules for an average customer, and also how many modules do a mature customer have?
A really good question. It's like you're saying, the straight answer is more or less that we could see that the average number of modules is like 2. But it's a big difference between a new customer and a customer that has been with us for several years. I will not give a guidance on how many that is, but it's far more than 2 modules. It's really important to understand the customer's maturity, because their maturity and their digital behavior is also a way of actually creating Fortnox success by the maturity of the customers and the accounting firms in Sweden and their way of actually becoming more digitized and becoming more automated as the third step, as I showed you, that is also something that's create value for Fortnox, and not just only create value for the customers. So a management answer.
Good one. And for how long does it take before a customer becomes mature? When does the delta sort of decrease?
I would say it's roughly somewhere around 3 to 4 years.
Okay. And as we spoke of earlier, the amount of modules is gradually expanding. How do you work towards expanding that number on each customer? Do you have salespeople that are calling their customers and trying to upsell products, or how do you work with that?
Our focus today is, as I said, is primarily to grab market share. That is our focus. To help the customers and to really help them to understand what they need is much more important for us than just doing cold calls. So what we're having is a more like an educational department where we travel around Sweden and try to educate customers instead, and to try to learn them what do they need. And that instead are actually creating sales to us more than just doing cold calls and having several key account managers in cars driving around Sweden, because we don't have that in that sense. And we also have as I showed you, the agreements with the accounting firms. They are more or less our resellers. If they are happy, if they have a quality product, if they think that the quality assurance that they have inside their businesses are good for them, it will probably be quite good for a lot of people in Sweden as well.
And in recent years, we have seen some consolidation occurring in the sector. For instance, Aspia has come alive.
Yeah.
Has this affected you and your operations in any way, positive or negative?
No, it hasn't affected us in any way, I would say. It's an interesting strategic step that a PE company is stepping in and transforming the industry. And in one sense, I would say it's more or less maybe helping Fortnox. What I mean by that is that they are increasing the speed and maturity of the customers, in increasing the demand of digitized services as we are offering. So in one sense, I would say, yes, it has affected us that they are putting more speed in the market, and that is good for us.
And as a last question, the churn rate is not explicitly reported in your quarterly reports. Can we have a small discussion on the recent trends in terms of churn rates and what's behind those trends? Are you feeling any external things affecting your churn rates, for instance, bankruptcies, etc.?
No, if we look at our churn rate, and the churn rate we have is very low. The ones of you who's maybe referring to telecom companies or other kind of companies in that sector, they have a really high churn rate, and we have an extremely low churn rate. So in one sense, I can see that the churn rate is definitely not increasing. That's also a way that we try to simplify our offering a little bit with the bundle package that we launched in April. As I mentioned to you guys, we're probably the only one who has never had a bundle package in Europe, so we started to do that as well. But the churn rate in Fortnox is very low, I would say.
And how would you say the initial time has been after you launched the bundling of products? Has this exceeded your expectations, or?
I think it's more or less what we have thought. It's not a huge number of customers. It's not a low amount of customers either. And the customers who's grabbing the bundle packages are new customers. So it's not existing customers, only new customers. But it's according to our expectations, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all of my questions.
Okay.
So let's thank Nils with a smaller applause.
Thank you.